time going through the pitches from a virtual perspective. So we're very excited to hear from our 3 businesses. We've got some great judges on the line from our procurement organization, as well as from our risk management team. So we're excited to hear all the different pitches and give some feedback and take this journey again. I think this is our 2nd year. TJ, I think it's our 2nd or 3rd year. I can't remember.
3rd year, yeah.
3rd year, wow. See, time flies when you're having fun. So we've had some great businesses come through and have a lot of different development, with the first prize being a scholarship to the tech program, and then joining us at various events for NGLCC. So glad to see everyone. We'll be turning on our cameras so we can see all you lovely faces, but it's good to see everybody. And again, glad to have everybody join today. Thanks for joining.
Awesome, thank you, Theresa. Yes, this is really exciting. So the way this is going to work, it will be just as we do in our in-person Biz Pitch competition sessions. Each panelist will get 10 minutes to present their slides. I will give you a 3-minute warning, 2, 1, and then a wrap up. So stay tuned for that. I will give the first 3 via text, so I'll try not to speak too loud to interrupt you or startle you. But once you have wrapped up, we will mute everyone and allow the panelists to take just a few minutes to collect their thoughts and their notes, and they'll go one by one to give you the feedback that you excitedly came here for. The order in which we're going to go is we're going to go alphabetical by company name. So we'll be starting with CKP Media. Herbert, we're excited to hear from you. So with that said, I hope we've given you enough time to get started. If you can share your screen at this point, we'll go ahead and let you kick it off, and we'll start the 10-minute timer now. Let's see, I just unmuted you. There you are.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for having me. And here's a few things. First, I heard yesterday from Thomas Janik on Monday that my presentation is today. I was somehow under the impression it was sometimes in fall. So that got me to the awkward situation that I have a nice presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, but they are on my computer in my office, which are in Midtown Manhattan, and the police prevents us from going there. We cannot go right now in our office at all. And so I'm having to use my own computer. It's actually my husband's computer. So I'll have just an oral presentation here, and unfortunately, no visuals. So apologies to that, but that on short notice, that's all I could do. About me, my name is Herbert Panz, and I own with my husband, Ethan, CKP Media. We founded it in 2005, so we're 15 years now in business. And we live here in Connecticut with our 2 beautiful daughters. We have 5-year-old twin girls, which we get through surrogacy. And that made us move out of New York City into the suburbs. We are active in the LGBTQ community, especially our big thing is the NGPA, the National Gay Pilots Association. It's a very powerful little organization. We have about 8,000 pilots. And we have a big scholarship program. We gave away this year $500,000 in scholarships to disenfranchised youth and other people to help them with college and flight training. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Now about CKP Media. We are a New York-based company. We do mostly localization, and our big thing is voices. We have our offices in Florida, in Jacksonville, Florida, and here in Connecticut. In our Florida office, we do all our multimedia localization done. Multimedia localization, the main areas is localizing video and multimedia programs, either from foreign languages into English or vice versa. For example, we do for a very big hotel chain, all their training programs and for all the hotel members to learn how to make the rooms and everything. And wherever they have a hotel, they need the locals to watch these videos. So we have to localize them into 97 languages. And here's a little bit something to learn for you. Papiamento is a different language from Papiamento. one is spoken on Aruba, the other one on Curacao. These are a little bit challenges we face often with this localization work. The other thing that's done in our Florida office is subtitling. Subtitling has shifted to a certain degree away from the usual TV work, more to the social media and YouTube programming. As you know, on YouTube, you can have now add subtitles, and for many corporate YouTube programs, we add basically the subtitles traditionally in the main languages or where it is used. And another area is the localization of training and e-learning programs. In Connecticut office, we do the voice branding. Voice branding is basically, social media and cultural adaptation, which is done by my husband, Ethan. He doesn't do that full time. He is, in addition, a tenured professor here in Connecticut, teaching social media marketing and consumer behavior. That gets us to the more interesting stuff, and that's done in our studios in Manhattan, and that's the voiceovers and the whole voice recordings. What are the main areas? Voice casting and auditions. So we basically match voices to characters, or most often animated characters. And of course, commercial work. As probably many of you know, advertising industry looks for the best of everything, and these models, they have 50 pounds or less, and when they open their mouths, a peepsy little voice comes out. And we give this rich, full, sexy voice, which most likely belongs to a woman in her 40s or 50s with about 200 pounds. But that's one of the very big areas where we're very active. The most interesting thing audition-wise we've done recently was we had to cast an AI. Like Apple has Siri, and then it's Alexa, and Samsung decided they want one too. It's called Bixby. So they trusted us with finding the perfect voice for that. It was a 6-month challenge. We had to audition the entire Broadway. 2,500 women in her 20s and 30s had to come in for custom auditions. Then the auditions had to go to a sociolinguist. That's a person who can actually say from the voice what her socioeconomic status is. And from there it went to focus groups, and it took us 6 months to narrow it down to a winner who we recorded in our studios. Actually, we had to record 600,000 WAV files to make sure the voice agent runs smooth. And that was basically one of the most challenging things we've ever done. The other thing is next to voice branding, and that is with the voice branding, everybody knows that, is finding a brand voice or a company or brand voice. You might know from Allstate or Aflac, you have a voice where you know just by hearing the voice what commercial company or brand is behind it. And then the third thing we do in New York is, of course, in the actual recording, lip syncing or voiceover recordings, and which we do in our own studios there, which can connect to the entire world. We do a lot for European ad agencies and Asian companies too. Therefore, we are, of course, much liked by the acting community and broadcasting community in New York, because most of these actors make more money with the voiceover work than they do with acting. For example, if you get be chosen as a voice for a commercial, you can make in 15 minutes by reading a couple of sentences more money than you can probably be acting in several months. So that's the reason we all give us the cell phone numbers all the way to the top celebrities. And it's quite funny, even we work with many big stars. Just recently, we had Daniel Day-Lewis in our studio. He loves to come to us. The reason is the first time he came, he was asking for where the coffee is, and somebody shouted out of his office, "In the coffee shop across the street." And he found it very funny, because we don't care who you are. We have so many sports people, which companies always pay basically for to record the TV spots, that we don't really care who you are anymore. When you come to us, you're nobody. You're just a voice talent. Yeah, so that's basically what we do. That's a quick rundown of what we do. I have that all in a nice PowerPoint presentation. You can check our website where you can find a lot of that information, all the companies.
2 minutes.
And thank you for listening to my presentation, or oral presentation in that case.
Thank you so much, Herbert. I'm going to mute everybody, and Theresa and team, I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to make any notes that you would like to make, and then Theresa, whenever you're ready, you can kick us off.
Okay. Herbert, I just had some questions.
Sure, go ahead.
So are there any like competitors? What's your competitor landscape look like in your industry? And then you mentioned that you do some training and e-learnings. What are those on the social media or the voicing? Can you just talk a little bit about those?
Especially the training programs. Large corporations, they create training programs. A lot of them do e-learning, safety programs, safety training, and continuing education and go on. And they all have a multicultural task force. Often we get the English raw materials, we check them that they are culturally okay, that then we get some people in who we adapt all the on-screen text and the tables and everything into the foreign languages and record them then with background narration. Important in that case is to say that we often encourage e-learning to do voiceovers because of the issues you have with subtitling, which is a lot cheaper, of course, because you cannot do only one thing. You can only watch a video or read the titles. You cannot do both. And if you have e-learning programs and you have important visuals to look at, you need to have a background narration instead of subtitling. There are several big companies. Most of our competitors actually located in the UK, in London, where a lot of these things is done, and 2 companies in LA. But we are highly specialized, and therefore we do not have a lot of competition. Like with Samsung, there are 4 studios who could record something as a voice agent, and they didn't want to go with the studios. One did already Siri, the other one did Alexa, and the other one is owned by Google. So they basically had to go with us.
Gotcha. Team, any questions? Florence, this is kind of your area of specialty. So from a BMC perspective.
Yep, sorry, I had to unmute myself. I have to I can't video, so, but I am on unmute now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so my question is, do you work with big ad agencies? Are you working with people like WPP and those types of folks, or how do you get your work?
Yes, we get part of work is the big ad agencies. We basically, Dona is one of the largest agency. We have several in Europe. We do for the whole car industry. For example, our biggest clients are Audi. We do all the videos for Novartis. We actually for Pfizer too, BMW. All the training programs for Fitbit are done for us. We do work with almost all large agencies.
Got it. Okay. And then you mentioned the Samsung and the Bixby as being like a big win for you.
Yes.
I would like to hear, like in your pitch, I would like to hear maybe some more like interesting wins for your organization.
Yeah, Fitbit was, for example, very interesting thing. A couple of 2 years back, they decided they wanted to go into the online training business. So they had this training program where they had trainers who showed the people doing themselves on the treadmill or on the web how to do exercising, which you could play via an app. They wanted to go global with that very, very quickly. So we had to basically find the right voices, which have this trainer, and then record these. But that was very, and we had to basically mimic these people exercising. So we basically had to run them around in the studio to get out of breath so they sound more authentic during the recordings. And we did, I think, 19 hours of these exercise lessons we had to do within several months.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, that's a very interesting story. Thank you. One other thing I would just point out is probably not now because I don't want to take up everybody's time, but maybe you can talk about at some point how you got into the business, you know, and what makes you like the expert in the business.
Yeah, I'm actually was before in the television industry. I'm actually originally Swiss and was in Munich at a television station, but then it was a really bad day. It rained, so I decided to move to the United States, to New York City. And here is, I met my husband. We're together now for almost 26 years. And we decided to do that. I don't even know why, but I was always I did a lot of castings before. I worked for CNN correspondent as first foreign correspondent, and I had a lot of TV background. And we originally started more out in the dubbing and lip syncing. We still do a lot of animations, especially for Nickelodeon, etc. A lot of these are bought from Russia and China, Polish, and we give these animated kid programs and English voices. So that's what that is what one of our Studio A in New York is mostly occupied with, is providing these kind of fun little animations.
Thank you very much.
Sandy, would you like to?
No, nothing from my side. Thank you.
Andrea, Rosemary?
I'm just curious to learn how large your team is.
We have 2 people in the Florida. Our business is quite interesting because we run always in troubles with the New York Department of Labor. I get it actually every year audited by them, because if you have 8 employees and 1,700 1099s, you have a problem. And sometimes extreme cases, we have people who work for us, like these actors, for 10 minutes, but they do make sometimes a lot of money because companies pay. We just paid a very well-known actor for reading 1 sentence, and the company paid him $80,000. So now explain the Department of Labor why you pay somebody $80,000 and he's on a 1099. He said he's a full-time employee. I said, no, he worked only for 5 minutes. So that's often quite interesting. So last year we had over 700 1099s, but we have only a team of 8 people that are fixed employed. The rest are all freelancers. Audio engineers, we hire as we need them. We have 3 people in the Florida office with Tony Chance is our main manager there. I manage with Alistair Sim as a studio manager for New York. And my husband Ethan manages our home office in Connecticut, where we are all now, unfortunately, have to be, because our studios right now are very expensive, empty places for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah. I think Florence's point was a good one to talk about. Tell a little bit of your story, how you got into it, because I think you have a good grasp. And I do like the stories of the different stories of hearing how you incorporated into some of your clients' work and how not so, I guess I want to say normal, run-of-the-mill kind of things you do. But I think
yeah, that's one area where
I think it's a really good. I think if you just incorporate that, it'll be spot on from that. And we'll take a look at the website. And I'm interested.
Yeah.
Please forward the slides. You know, when you can get them, and we're happy to look at those and review those as well. So thank you.
One of the most interesting things is we work with often multiple directors. We had, for example, we had to record the sentence, "This is McDonald's," 4 years ago. It took 6.5 hours to record that 1 sentence. They like take number 812. So yeah, no, that's some of the more fun stories besides all the boring daily business. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me.
I would just add one other thing really quickly is I did look at the website, and I think it might be helpful too if when you were talking, you like you have this great thing here. We're obsessed with voices and creating awesome productions in English and 80 other languages. You summarize it really quickly there. If you had that maybe at the beginning to kind of frame all the amazing things that you do, that might be helpful in focusing and putting a little bit of context.
Yes, it is. I'm again, my apologies. I was really, until yesterday, into the impression, it was in October. So I had this morning, we have a big client in Japan, and I was on basically on a phone conference this morning, which is awful, because basically everything, you're not getting anything done if you work with 5 different simultan translators. It takes 50 minutes until everybody said hi and everybody translated in every language. So that, so I was a little bit understanding.
Yeah,
So
no.
I promise in the future to be better prepared for that.
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry, I was on mute and I didn't realize I exactly feel the same as Florence had mentioned, and then Theresa too. I think if you could start, as Sandy had mentioned, with that as an intro, it would really have everything else flow very nicely.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the feedback.
Oh, it looks like I was talking with my mute button on as well. Okay, thank you so much for that. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Great. Well, thank you so much for that. We're going to move on to our next presenter, Andy Siebert of Imprint. Andy, are you there? Can you share your screen now?
Yes, I can.
There you are. We'll go ahead and get you started with your 10 minutes right about now.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Siebert. I'm managing partner of Imprint. I'm glad and I'm hoping that everyone is safe and healthy in your families. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to let me tell you about my firm Imprint today. We are a full service content marketing agency based in New York City. Our mission is pretty simple. We help clients build meaningful relationships with their customers through actionable and measurable content programs. And so what does that mean? Well, you know, my mother does ask me what I do. And let me just, I think the screen, there we go. I explained it in these 5 areas. I break down content marketing into 5 areas, and I call this my mom slide. So when she asks me what I do, she keeps doing, bless her heart. The 5 areas, when we first started Imprint about 7 years ago, we thought we'd really be in the content creation business. So that's sort of blue square where we'd be creating videos and podcasts and articles. What we found was many people didn't have a documented content strategy or didn't really have a strategy about why they had jumped into content and were creating so much content. So we found a lot of our work has been and continues to be in the strategy. So this is helping clients envision what they want, auditing what they already have, because a lot of companies have enough content. They just need to figure out, is it updated? And that's part of the assessment of it. The embrace is about helping them socialize the content strategy throughout the organization, up to the C-suite and down to phone reps and sort of feet on the street, so that everybody is sort of talking about how the content connects to what the brand is and how the content can help bring the brand alive. The next part is sort of planning the content. You know, who's the audience? Are there segments within that? What channels? How are they consuming content? On what channels? Who else is out there in the market talking to those same customers, and how can we help our clients be different? And we really help them plan on a calendar basis, sort of what content is going to go out to the audience, when, and in what format. So there's all this kind of planning stage. Then the creation. So we've created every type of content out there in the last 7 years, from articles and infographics to podcasts to webinars to experiential things. Video is huge in today's world and growing as a form of content. And so that's, we have a whole team of editors, designers, and project managers. And then we help clients put it out there, because you can create content, but if you don't tell people it's there, no one will come see it. So we work with email vendors, we go on press for a magazine, we work with social teams. We can manage all 5 of these, but a lot of times there might be other agencies involved or other vendors involved, and we're very flexible about how we work. The last part is about measuring. So we try to set goals right up front, and then we're not afraid to ask the question, did it work? So we work with the client all the way through to keep our eye on the prize in terms of what the goal was. Are we getting the data to measure it, and then determining what the ROI is against that? Because we can pivot from there and go back through the circle and make the program better. This is sort of a big picture, but also a very more detailed look at all the different services we offer. And you'll see that we go to B2B clients as well as B2C audiences with a variety of service offerings. And you'll see very kind of heavied up in the strategy part between journey mapping, persona work, the content strategies to the creation of all the content. I was at Smart Money magazine and Smart Money website running Smart Money, the brand, before I started Imprint. And so naturally, when we started Imprint, a lot of our clients were financial services clients, people that I knew. And I had promised them a team of experienced people, but also fresh thinking. So I've curated a team from large publishers like Time Inc., Hearst, Dow Jones, Meredith, and then some clients have come over to work at Imprint. So we've got people that have walked in shoes of clients and some fresh faces to the industry. And you'll see here that there's some very big and recognizable names. We feel very lucky that we've been able to sort of grow market share within the financial arena. But to diversify, about 50% of our clients are non-financial. So you might think, well, how do you sort of break into a new industry? The common thread among our clients, because we sort of step back and look, is these clients have a complexity to their content creation and distribution programs. So we tend to get the work that's kind of messy, right? That is complicated, that needs us to really roll up our sleeves and do some pretty difficult work, and the Imprint team loves that. And in the end, all these clients are choosing us because they trust us, and they trust us with their program, their content, and their brands. And in the end, a financial service firm that has a home office and then a main office and then these different regions with home offices, as they're called, with financial advisors in them, who then work with clients, aren't really that different from the Girl Scouts main office that has states that have different troops and troop leaders, and then the girls themselves, as well as like Weight Watchers that has a main central magazine, website, and app, and then they're distributing content through all those, plus at meetings every week in a very consistent way. So, they're actually not that different when you strip the brands out. This is my bragging slide. So over the last 7 years, we've been nominated for Agency of the Year 11 times by 4 different organizations. We've won twice, and we're still waiting to hear from our finalist nomination at the Digiday Awards. But for clients, we've won over 85 awards. And some clients really care about this because it makes their programs valid in the market and within their industry. So here's a part where I'd sort of bring in traditional like examples of how, what we do, how we think, so you can see the work. But rather go, in the past and bring that work forward, I thought I would show you what we're doing right now and make it really relevant to today's world. So we're, as you know, unprecedented times across all of our clients. So everybody's affected by this. And our clients are really in this crisis phase, and so are customers. So what we're doing is, and if you read a lot of the content that you get from companies, the content that starts with like, we are doing this and we are here for you, it's too much about the company. What we're trying to help our clients with is really focus on the customers and their clients' journeys through this pandemic. So we're doing a lot of journey mapping, and we're trying to help our clients as they are working through the crisis phase with communications. we're helping them with that. We're working on some of those communications as well as just being an overflow for the communications that they need to do but can't because they're working on the crisis. But we're also trying to be one step ahead. So let's take small businesses. So small business segment, and let's be specific within the small business segment of small businesses with storefronts. Small businesses with storefronts are going through a huge crisis as their business got shut down. Some of them are non-essential, some are, can still stay open, but their whole worlds are, have exploded. They're trying to take care of their families. They're trying to take care of their work families and all their employees. They're trying to figure out all the content coming out about the CARES Act and PPP funding. But at some point, they are going to look to recover. And they need content about how to set up their shop, how to create spacing, how to take touchless financial payments instead of cash. And then they'll get to a reimagined stage where they're really looking to growth. And what we're trying to help our clients with is staying one step ahead. So in this first phase, we're planning for the content. So when the clients are ready for it, the content is there. And the same with this, with the third phase. So these are some of the things we're working on the here and now: articles, blog posts, podcasts, helping with this sort of crisis communication. But we're also doing sort of that strategic work where we're helping clients figure out their most important segments, who needs the content the most, and how we can provide that content in the right format at the right time. So when that segment is looking for it, it's there for them. And those are the firms, if you have the content, you'll have that long-standing relationship with the customer. They'll really appreciate it. So that's a little bit about Imprint and what we do. I really appreciate the time, and I look forward to working with you possibly.
Great, thank you so much for that. That was fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to let the team take us a few minutes to gather their thoughts and everything. So hold tight, Andy, and anyone with Team EY, whenever you're ready. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, so whenever someone's ready, please go ahead, and we'll allow a few minutes.
I guess I have it's kind of probably a compound question, but you mentioned the life cycle, if you will, on the mom slide, which I really liked. Where you kind of go through various things, and then you kind of examine at the end and keep going. Do you have any statistics on essentially your, I don't want to say conversion because they're already your clients, but on how long you've been going through cycles and how long that usually, I don't want to say last, but in terms of how have you created, or how has that life cycle helped you create longer lasting relationships, if that's the case?
Sure, I think that's a great question. And it is, I'll try to not compound the answer. I'll try to make it simple.
That's why you're the communication company and I'm not.
Making the complex simple, what we try to do. It actually, even the smallest project goes through the same process as the largest one. So we've had a financial services firm who has 4 different divisions. They have like a individual investor, a retirement plan participant, a wholesale, and a institutional division. And they were talking about their core, their core capabilities of retirement investments in all different ways. They actually needed an enterprise content strategy, and we needed to sort of take them through that whole process of creating the strategy, but then planning it out for each division and working it out, and then coming back and saying, is it working, right? But a client may come and say, we want to create a podcast series. And we start with the same strategy of, well, why? What are you trying to do? Let's talk about what you're envisioning out of this, what your goals are out of this. And sometimes it never makes it past the strategy phase because someone had a great idea or a pet project, but it really wasn't the right thing. So we take even the smallest and take it through that cycle. Now, clients really appreciate that because it's not just about creating sort of sexy content. It's really asking the right questions and making sure that we're making an investment in their business and we can show the investment in their business. And by treating their business like it's ours, we have knock on wood, we have about a 50% win rate, and we have probably like a 65% retention rate over the last 7 years. So we've had some clients come and go after a year or two based on different changes, but most of our clients know that we're in there with them.
Awesome, thanks.
Hi, this is Rosemary. Just a quick comment. When you were giving the presentation, which was very good, I really love the mom slide. That's such a great description of what we do. I think I love that. But when you were giving the presentation, at a certain point, it almost sounded like you were reading the content, and it got a little monotone. When you answered the question from Sandy, you could actually hear your enthusiasm or your passion. You could hear and see your knowledge of your business. So just a little. I don't want to call it advice, but maybe just a little information on your presentation.
I'll take it. Thank you.
No, I like the tagline at the end, the leave your mark. I thought that somehow if you can incorporate that somewhere within the conversation, I just like the way you ended. I thought that was just perfect. So how are you going to leave your mark? So I somehow, and I think, yeah, I don't know how to articulate it there. I'll leave that job to you, because that's what you guys are great at doing. But I just like that tag somewhere, kind of incorporate that in the overall delivery. I think kind of has a way to just kind of put the punctuation on like what you guys do. So I thought the presentation was good. I too myself like the mom slide. I think it's a great way, and I think it was a great way to build people's interest and keep them captivated throughout the entire presentation. So I think it was a really great job. Good job.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the mom slide too. It was very simple, but yet gave you the information behind each stage. And the leave your mark kind of hit me too. If you could somehow maybe bring that to life throughout the presentation to then leave that mark, I think would be even more impactful, but definitely a very catchy phrase and great way to end it.
Oh, thank you.
I have to agree. It was a great presentation. I just have one question. How much of your business is B2B and how much is like B2C?
It's interesting. I thought it was going to be mostly B2C when I wrote the business plan, and it's about half and half. And growing with B2B, because B2B isn't as sexy and it's a little more complex. And we've had success because we call it B2P, which is, business to person, really trying to bring the content down in a relatable way, because businesses are made up of people. So.
Well, thank you.
This is great feedback. Thank you all.
Anybody else from Team EY that wanted to put any thoughts forward? All right. Well, thank you so much, Andy, and thank you so much, Team EY.
Thank you.
You're going to go ahead, Andy, I will go ahead and mute you. And Sue-Ann, we're going to start gearing you up. I will unmute you now. And once you're ready to share your screen, I'll start that 10-minute timer. And again, I'll try not to startle you by giving you any 2-minute, 1-minute warnings. So go ahead and get started.
Thank you, TJ. Okay, I'd like to start with a premium that my company gives out when I make presentations like this. And if you want one, they're coming in really handy during this pandemic. Clients are emailing me saying, I'm using this to hold my phone so people can see me, or hold my device. So they work very well for a pandemic, but they work very well for using your phone when you don't normally have to do it for so much as we have been during this pandemic. Thank you for having me. It's difficult in some ways, but inspiring in others to follow Andy and Herbert. Herbert, right?
Yes.
Yes. And two things. I do what Andy does for attorneys in trial, and I'd like to work for Herbert when I retire. I am getting used to this format, and I'm really, really appreciative to have something to do during this work from home stuff. Something to do that makes me feel like I'm working on my business. What we do. Sue Ann Engel Associates is the result of myself working for very large companies in the business of helping trial attorneys present complicated information to juries. And we do it with a little bit of social science research, an eye on graphics and visual communications, and presentation technology that is interactive and ever growing in capabilities, as you can probably see from, again, the pandemic. If a genius thinks simplicity is complicated, you best believe it's complicated. It takes a long time to distill something down to actionable bites, digestible bites that jurors can act on, but that is what we're trying to do in very complex business disputes that deserve their day in court. We always begin with the end in mind, because in the legal world, the end is hard to find because of appeals and the initial, from initial filing of the case to the final appeal. It's a very complicated process. So is the end in mind for the first thing, working on an opening statement, or is it the way to illustrate a complicated business transaction in the initial filing? If a picture is worth 1,000 words, I tell attorneys on a regular basis, they have to come up with those words. And once they do, that's what people forget, I think, is when you hear that phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 words, as if it's simple, but it's difficult to come up with those 1,000 words. In addition, when you have come up with those and the briefs are filed and the answers have come in and the responses have gone back, there are all sorts of things when you're helping someone go to trial that you have to keep in mind, because everyone is different. No two trial teams are alike. No two pieces of litigation are alike. And imagine every time you're preparing a case for trial, something either happens that's never happened before, or someone's never done the work we're about to present, and we're constantly dealing with people who are doing this for the first time. And one of the ways to do that is I consult with attorneys to find their authentic selves to present to strangers. 12 strangers, 8 strangers have to be moved. And the way to do that is work with these attorneys to figure out all those disparate parts of themselves. When they can bring them all together, the closer they can overlap those parts of their presenting selves, the better they will be. Here's an example of a lead attorney sitting in a room after 3 mock trials where a lot of information came and went, after the litigation had been living for 7 years. We finally get to trial. It's 3 days before opening, and he's finally distilling this complicated transaction into this crazy sketch. And I am working with him and acting as a go-between with artists, saying, this is what we need to do now. We need to do it quickly, and we need to have it ready to present in trial in a way that will be complimentary of his style and actionable on the part of the jurors who are listening. So this was presented in 2005, and a lot of money was at stake. The jury came out with a verdict that was eventually overruled, sorry. And this slide is something to show you in that after all this work gets done, you might show up to trial, and all of those yellow slides are the losing slides, basically, where a judge said, nope, can't use that, or the other side said, we object to that, okay, can't use that. So there's a lot of nuance that we keep in mind because we've been in trial, sometimes a lot more than the attorneys we work with, and we know how to be prepared for these last minute crazy machinations that happen during trial. The beauty about using this case as an example of our work is that the verdict was $790 million in 2005, and it was overruled. And the case went on appeal and went back to trial in 2012. I ended up with the same team in many respects, but new people. Some people who were experts with a lot of the facts were gone, but a lot of the facts stayed the same. We had some new ones, but here we then went in 2012, and this is what we came up with to describe that same transaction. And this time, we defended successfully a claim of $4 billion. So I thought I would bring it into, because there's so many trials that we do, I thought I would show you something current. Now, I didn't work with this expert, but it's a MedCram doctor who's describing the curve. And I was fascinated by all the information that's out there about COVID-19. And I went on a mission to figure out what does it all mean for the individual, treating it as trying to find anything I could do as an individual to help. And he was explaining in a really interesting way, although it took a long time and reminded me of the experts we work with in trial. He was explaining that here's Italy's curve, but if we want to keep the healthcare system at capacity, we have to do the following things that will help. We'll be able to maintain that, because we already know that of all the people who get infected, 20% are going to need hospitalization, and of those 20%, some of them are going to need the ventilators and the other help with breathing, the oxygen stuff, the very things that we don't have enough of. So we've got to keep it down to our capacity, and anything you do as an individual can help. And he created this thing, and this took about, I would say, 12 minutes probably total. And what I ended up doing, because of the ways we create graphic situations that, pardon me?
2 minutes.
Thank you, TJ, and it's perfect timing. This is how we pulled it all together, and I thought it would be a great way to show the panel ways we use graphics to match the message in the moment. When the COVID-19 stay-at-home orders and subsequent court closures went into effect, I found myself consumed with finding constructive ways to help. I was particularly interested in the science of what was happening. I devoured video tutorials developed and posted by a co-founder at MedCram, a doctor named Roger Seaholt. He presents the big picture of the pandemic in a way that is directed toward medical professionals. The ease with which he presents that information prompted me to take it all a step further to see if I could help distill it for the average person. I was driven by the notion that if people understand context, they can be moved to change their behavior. This attempts to apply the visual communications techniques often used in the courtroom to help spread actionable ways the average person can do their part in conquering COVID-19. It also gave me a great reason to collaborate with a former colleague, Doug Rice, who is uniquely qualified to help me. After retiring from his work in jury consulting, he became an ICU nurse. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, TJ. So that's an explanation of the videos. I cut them down, and I've been using them on social media to explain we're all in this together, basically. And it's a good way for me to discuss the work, because at any point during that video, those objects are editable. The speaker would, in this case, the speaker was myself, but the speaker would practice and we would change things on the fly, and that really describes the work. And we're often in those trench situations and helping people at a time when they're the most vulnerable. A lot of stuff is at stake, and I have a calming influence. Thank you for listening.
Great, thank you so much, Suzanne. As we have in the past, we'll allow Team EY just to take a few minutes, and then whenever any of them are ready, please go ahead. We'll allow a few minutes.
I just had to say, I loved the end slide. That was so eye-catching. I'm like, wait, we're done already? It really kind of grabbed the attention. I don't know if that was the desired impact, but I'm like, wait. And then you really quickly explain why, I should say I'm a non-practicing lawyer, so this particularly resonates with me. But, to say this is why, things change. There going to be long tails, short tails, twisted tails, everything in between. So I really like the, starting with the end. And obviously, using the COVID example, to show I liked what you did with the sketches. You can see the sketches, and then, there wasn't quite as clear of a relationship between the sketches to the slides and the litigation. But with the COVID, it's like, okay, here's a real current example that every single person on this call can relate to, and here's how you can use, visuals to bring it to light. So I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I agree. The presentation material was excellent. I love the video as well. It was short, but very impactful. And even some of the slides that you used, that 1,000-word slide, and then how you had some of the words pop out. I like the sketches as well, too. But yeah, very, very good job.
Thank you.
Hi, Sue Ann. I like the sketches. I think it just needs to be probably articulated a little better on how they become the slides, because I think it was, first of all, how you could read all that and translate those into slides was beyond me. But I think it was very interesting how you took kind of their thoughts and then turned it into what they wanted to say in those slides. So I think maybe just putting that more into pictures a little bit better to better articulate how that process is done, and maybe talking about that process a little more. I do agree that COVID, I think, totally brought it to life, and it's, all relevant right now. But I think just talking a little bit about more of that process, it's, how you articulate their thoughts into slides or into words. And I think the other part, speaking about how you're supporting people at their most vulnerable moment is very powerful. And I like the way you said that at the end and ended with that. I thought it was a very powerful statement. So good job. Thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Hi, Shakira. I would agree. I thought your end was so powerful. I wish you would have led with some of what you had at the end in the beginning. So given the climate that we're in, emotions are high, you will always get someone's immediate attention once they feel like you're about to present or share something that will really be impactful to them. So I think that should have probably been your maybe leading statement, or you could flip it somehow. And then with the support of the graphics, I think if that was done, it would be a done deal. But I really enjoyed it as well. I thought it was very thoughtful and strategically done. So
Thank you.
good job.
Okay, that's all for feedback now. So for the sake of being able to record this for future reference and feedback, we are actually going to, if I encourage all panelists to join us, we're going to switch this over to a Zoom call in which we can do a breakout room so that the judges can deliberate. I'm sorry that we have to do it this way. So I just sent the Zoom meeting in the chat box. So I would encourage everyone to click on that, and we'll exit this webinar and we'll go in there, and so the judges can deliberate. If you're not interested in joining, we will be announcing the selection for the person going on to the next round in our newsletter and in a news blast. So you can join us for that instead. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and shut this down, and then we'll go get on that Zoom call so we can start deliberating. Thank you.